Hi everyone, it's Uncle Jimmy here, your favorite uncle in the online space. It's time for another episode of our Q&A where I answer all of your burning questions. So for those who don't know who I am, my name is Jimmy and I have been deriving my income online almost 10 years now. And I'm also a coach over at Easy Grow, which is Charlie Morgan's course. You may have heard of him before. And I help people with their service delivery woes and teach people how to keep clients forever. And today we're doing our Q&A, which is like our talkback radio session for online entrepreneurs. So if you have a question that you would like answered, you need to join the school group in the description below. It's completely free and your question may be in the next episode. But obviously you didn't just come here because I'm good looking, you came here for the knowledge bombs. But before we start, let's get to the question that I asked last week, which is, what is the best quote you've heard when it comes to mindset? And Boschin has an absolute god slap of an answer here, and that is, you can't lose if you don't stop. I absolutely love that, Boschin. Thanks for sending that in. And now let's get to this week's question, and this question is, what is the tool that's helped you the most when it comes to productivity? Make sure to leave your answer to that question in the comments, and you may find your answer in the next video. All right, so let's start with the first question.
Hi, good Jimmy. It's Vilamir. Obviously, we've spoken for quite a while, but I've recently kind of moved up in my agency to a point where a lot of what I do is dependent on a lot of collaboration with other people in terms of other people's sales teams, other people's management, my ISAs, of course, and overall, it's just come down to me managing people more and more. Now, I have a question regarding this. How do you manage yourself, your emotions, and your mindset when people aren't really doing what you want them to do? Because it's happened many times now that I feel like, people not making sales, people not doing their job correctly, it's kind of impeding my success. And I just want to hear how you handle that, because I obviously don't want to blame anyone else besides me for my results, if that makes sense. Please let me know.
Excellent question, Wilhelm, and I'm happy to answer it. So I manage a small army of VAs. I have my ops director who helps a lot as well, but I manage a lot of people, right? And what I've learned managing a lot of people is that you need to temper your expectations, because no one is going to work in your business as hard as you do. And this is something that's hard for people to get their head around. You make your first hire, it's a mission critical hire for your business, and you find they're just not doing things the way you want them to do. And the first thing I'll say is that you can't expect them to do it the way you want them to, that you want it done, because they're not you and they don't have the skin in the game. And secondly, a lot of the time when this happens, it's actually your fault. And let me explain why. So when I first started hiring people, I would just tell people what I wanted done, and I would just expect that they'd run off, get it done, and come back. What I found is that it was never done the way I wanted it done, and it got to the point where it just kind of made sense for me to do it myself. And I went through a phase where I would just do things myself, even though I'd hired people to do it, because I just didn't know how to get them to do what I needed them to do. And my wife came to me one day and said, collectively on behalf of the team, because it was frustrating for the team too, because it felt like their work was never good enough. She said to me, Jimmy, these people can't read your minds. You've either got to elaborate on what you do and explain yourself better, or stop hiring people. And I was like, you're absolutely right. That is the problem. So what I discovered over the years after hiring and firing and being through so many people is that when someone is underperforming and someone's not doing the job properly, it's because I haven't explained what I want done well enough. And what I've learned to do now is just create Lubios, create processes, create SOPs so that there's no stone unturned. And I know it feels like you shouldn't have to do that because that's why you're hiring to do it, but people can't read your mind. So if someone's underperforming, a lot of times they don't even know they are. And if they are, they don't have a solution to the problem. If they did, they'd probably be running their own business. So how I go about doing that is generally when I want something to get done, I sit there with Loom on, and which is a screen recording software for those who don't know what that is. And I just talk through it step by step, and I do the task. So if I wanted someone to help with, say, sales, I would do sales calls. And after every sales call, I would explain what I did. I would explain why I did things a certain way. Then what I would do is give that to the person I'm hired and said, make a process from this. I want you to listen to all of this and I want you to make a process for this. It's called digging your own grave. You get them to dig their own grave and you get them to build the process in the way that makes sense to them, because you can make a process for them, but if it doesn't make sense to them, then they're never going to do it. So if you record yourself doing a Loom video and you really go into details and go into the weeds and you make sure that no stone is left unturned, when they create this process, A, it gives you a gauge of where they're at, and B, they take ownership of it and it makes sense to them, which gets better outcomes. And I found that's one of the best things I've done when it comes to managing people is really taking the time to like uncover all the stones and acknowledge that if they're not doing a good job, a lot of time it's my fault. That is an absolutely slapping question, Wilhelm. Thank you so much for asking it. Let's go to the next question.
Hey Jimmy, it's Twani here. I have a question that's about operations, but I don't really know if it's operations question, but when you're running a DCT campaign or ad set, when looking at the ad copy, do you look at the link click-through rate of the ad copy when compared to the click-through rate all? For example, if click-through rate all of a ad copy is like 9%, but the link click-through rate is 3%, is a ad copy within KPI of the link click? Because 3% is less than half of 9%, so I'm not sure. Or do you like compare to the click-through rate all, or do you just look at the link click-through rate?
Thanks for the question, Giovanni. Not necessarily operation-based, but I'm happy to answer it anyway. So if you do have a question and it's not that, we'll slip one or two of those into these weekly Q&As. So the question you're asking is that when you're running a dynamic creative test, a dynamic creative test is effectively where you're able to put more than one image and more than one video into an ad, and you can combine that with different texts. And then you can let Facebook basically, this is for Facebook ads, you can basically let Facebook work out which one is the best. Basically what Giovanni's asking is, when we are looking and comparing the text that we have, so you have the copy and you have the creative, when we're comparing the two copies that we have, how do I determine which one is better? Do I use click-through rate all, or do I use link click-through rate to determine that? So my guide to this is that if it's to do with the image, it's click-through rate all. If it's to do with the text, it's link click-through rate. Now, it's not an exact science. There is people that see an image and then just click the link. That's why it's generally over half or up to half of your link click-through rate. But in most cases, if you have two copies and you have one copy that has a high click-through rate all and a low link click-through rate, and you have one copy that has a high click-through rate all and a low click-through rate all and a higher link click-through rate, generally that copy with the higher link click-through rate is a better performing copy given when you take into account the earned ad spend. Now, the earned ad spend in DCTs is super important too, because it shows you where the majority of the people that are seeing the ad, what they resonate most with. So if you've got an ad that has a low click-through rate, but it also has a really high earned ad spend, so it's like, let's say one text earns $2 and the other one earns $15, then even though it's got a lower link click-through rate, you would be cautious about getting rid of it because the majority of people are resonating with that ad, or Facebook thinks the majority of people are resonating with that text. So it might be worth creating a variation that's maybe different, but based off that. But generally, you use link click-through rate as your first port of call, and then you're using ad spend as like a secondary test of that thought process. So if you've got an ad that's got a link click-through rate of 3%, then and the other one's got a link click-through rate of like 1%, even though the click-through rate alls may be different, you go with the one with the highest link click-through rate most of the time. So hopefully that helps, Giovanni. Obviously, that's a little bit higher level. If you want to learn more about Facebook ads, I've got plenty of videos on the YouTube channel where I dive deep into the weeds of that, and you can find out more details about that. So let's get into the next question here.
Hey Jimmy, and Marcel here. So I'm about 1 year investing in this space. So currently have like 4 clients on the setup fee, and I'm just wondering, in terms of operations, how to properly manage clients and your time to deliver the results? Because I've got like only 4 and I already don't know how to actually manage my time to be as efficient as possible or just efficient. And like how much time to spend on ads, how much time to spend on ads creative, how much time to spend on actually creating stuff for the clients. Like I'm just wondering because like I actually stopped outreach. Like I'm not doing cold calls anymore because I don't have like my mind space like to actually be able to do stuff because like I'm constantly procrastinating, constantly like doing the upgrades, the lead rooms and stuff. I just don't know how to manage time in terms of these operations, like delivering the service. And second of all, what's your perspective on productizing the service? I mean, doing the same ad challenges and stuff like how much personalization should we provide for each client? So that's my 2 questions. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic questions. So the first question, it really comes down to this. If you're not tracking your time and how long it takes you to do things when you work on a client, then you'll never get past this feeling of being overwhelmed with what you have to do. You can't you can't optimize what you don't track. It's a saying that's well known in the online entrepreneur space, but people don't really understand the ramifications of not tracking what you do. So you said there, you're not sure how much time to spend on doing creatives. You're not sure how much time to spend on doing copy. You're not how much time you spend on talking to the clients and things like that. That is because you're not tracking how long things take. So you have no benchmark on how long it should take, right? So the flow-on effects of that are obviously you get to this situation where you're like, am I spending too much time or am I spending too little time on any part of that process? Or am I actually making money or not? Because you may be spending a disproportionately large amount of time doing creative, which is hurting your margins and not allowing you, which is hurting your margins. And also you add on the fact that you're overwhelmed because you don't know how much you should be doing. I think this also comes down to a philosophy when it comes to clients. Fundamentally, your job is not to be the best in the world at, say, Facebook ads or Google ads or creating a course. Your job is not to be the best in the world at it. Your job is to get results and keep people happy. So your KPI for whether a client's doing well or not should be if they're happy with what you're doing or not. If they're happy with what you're doing, then you stop and you do up to that. You can get into this really bad habit of like over optimizing things to the point where a client's happy and you're going above and beyond that. No one's paying you to do that. And what it does is it creates this situation where you don't know how much you should be doing. So the cornerstone of this is communicating with your clients and tracking your time. So you get a benchmark, you get a stopwatch and go, actually, I know it should take 5 to 6 hours to do the optimization for a client to get them to the point where they're happy. Once you know that, then you can start to benchmark against that and you can go, oh, wow, I'm spending way too much time doing creatives. I need to speed up that process so I get it within that 5 or 6 hours. If you're not tracking that stuff, if you're not tracking that time, then you are running a very inefficient agency because it's one thing when you're doing it for yourself, but next thing you hire someone to help and you don't know how long it's supposed to take to do things, that creates the anxiety and stress that we were talking about in the first question with Wilhelm. Now, in regards to your second question in regards to productizing an agency and productizing your service offering, that is a must. You don't have to, like I said, our goal is not to be the best media buyer in the world. Our goal is not to be the best at Facebook ads in the world. Our goal is to get the best results possible. But you have to balance that with making a profit. If you're getting the best results you can and you're not making any money, then you shouldn't be taking the client on. So productization of our service allows us to balance those two things. Generally, when you productize your service, it becomes more efficient. It increases your margins because you're doing the same things over and over again. You can get that stopwatch time lower and lower and lower. And it also creates consistency because if you've been able to get one client happy or 2 clients happy with a productized service, the consistency is there that you'll get others happy as well. That's the whole theory behind it. It allows you to maintain and increase margins and allows you to create consistency when it comes to clients' happiness, which is our main KPI when it comes to running anything online mainly. If you have a course, you shouldn't be trying to make the best course on the internet. You should just be trying to make a course that makes people happy. And the benchmark for making people happy in the course creation space is them getting the outcome perhaps. But it doesn't mean you have to make the best course in the world. You just have to make it to the point where they're happy. Because like I said, anything above and beyond that, generally no one's paying for. So great question. Let's get into the next one.
So Jimmy, this is a message for your video. Thank you very much for all your help. My name is Antonin. I'm 21 and I'm currently like starting my agency. And my question is like, what are the skills and all the things that you need to know or to have before start getting clients and getting results for these clients? Like all the skills, like be able like to cold calling, to close a client, to do Facebook ads, these kind of things. And all the need, like the asset that you need, for example, an onboarding process, a prospection system, stuff like that. Everything that I need to start an agency, like the minimum that I need to start an agency. And also, I wanted to know how can I manage that if I'm not like full-time on my agency. Thank you very much.
I absolutely love this question. Another banger question. The thing is, people understand the theory of running an optimal agency, and they understand the theory of optimization, and they understand the theory of automating workflows and things like that. But what they don't understand is that when you're supposed to do that stuff. At the start, so when you're starting an agency, it's about getting the outcomes. So you need to make sure that you have everything from an absolute minimum. You need to have absolutely everything you need to get an outcome and nothing more, because you've got to balance the fact that you're not making much money and you have time, right? So, things like Go High Level. I have a love-hate relationship with Go High Level. I think it's an awesome tool for the right agencies. If you're just starting out, then Go High Level is a complete waste of money. You should not be worried about optimizing workflows. You should not be worried about scaling up. You should not be worried about whether your process is scale or not, because you don't have any clients, or you got 1 or 2 clients, and it doesn't matter. You've got the time. You should just be focusing on developing the process to go from a client not working with you to getting the outcome where they're happy. So if we talk about this from an SMMA perspective, what do you need to be able to do that? Well, you need an acquisition strategy. So you need a way of getting clients in. Now, this doesn't have to be optimized. This doesn't have to even be optimal. It's just a way of getting clients to pay. If it meant that you spend the billboard at the front of a shop and that got you clients, then that's what you do. It doesn't have to be optimal. It just has to be a strategy that works. From there, you need to have a sales process. Now, it doesn't have to be a super optimized sales process that will scale your agency to 7 figures or any of that jazz. Just a sales process. What are you going to say, and when are you going to say it, and how are you going to say it? Those are the 3 things you need as part of your sales process. From your sales process, you need a way of creating a good first impression, which generally is onboarding. That's why I made a YouTube video just on onboarding and gave away all my processes. It's that important. If you have an amazing sales process and they feel super loved, and then they go into this process where you have to get on 3 calls with them because you forget to give them things, or, whatever, that's just going to hurt the experience, and they're not going to give you enough rope to hang yourself with to get the results. So good onboarding is a must, and you need a good process for that. Then you need to be able to deliver the service, whether that's Facebook ads, Google ads, or whatever. You need to be able to deliver the service. There, again, people try and worry about what they're going to do scaling wise and whether it scales or not, and they worry too much about that and less about just getting the fucking job done, right? Don't worry about processes. Don't worry about scaling. Just get the job done. If you have to get the client result, don't worry about whether this ad is going to scale in the future or not. You can worry about that when that's a problem. Worry about, this client's paid me to do a service. I need to get this ad up. I don't care if it takes me 20 hours to do. I'm happy to lose a bit of money at the start to learn. And then you need to make sure you have a process for checking the pulse of the client to make sure that they're happy or not. So communications. So that's reporting. That's, communications cadences. How often do you communicate with the client? What do you say to the client when you're communicating with them? And you need to have a process for getting upsells and referrals to them. If you have all of that, that doesn't have to be optimized at the start. The transition from when it comes, and you may not have to optimize that until you get to 5 or 6 clients. You may be able to just juggle all that by yourself. But there does come a point of inflection where it's like, I can't just do this without any processes. I've got to optimize, and I've got to start building processes, and I've got to start doing it more efficiently. And that generally comes when you start running out of time and you're at that inflection point when you're looking at hiring people. But at the start, the biggest mistake people make, doesn't matter if it's an SMMA or a course or dropshipping, is they think too far into the future and go, oh, this isn't going to get me to 7 figures, so I'm not going to do it. Oh, I need to automate that because that's what the pros do. Don't worry about that. Just get the job done. Don't use technology as a barrier to getting the job done and putting in the reps. So that was a fantastic question. I loved this video today. There's a lot of nuggets of wisdom there. And guys, if there's anything I've missed, let me know in the comments. Just ask away. I'm here to answer your questions. And like I said, if you want your question answered, make sure to join the school group, look for the pin post, see what the topic of the week is, and your question may be in the next video. And also make sure to subscribe because I'm doing these once a week. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.